Hare Krishna, we welcome all the devotees to participate in today's weekly conversations on Vaishnava Seva, conversations on devotee care. After a series of conversations we had in the past with His Holiness Jayapatak Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Devamrit Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Swami Maharaj, and His Holiness Niranjan Swami Maharaj. We are very honored to have with us one of the senior most Srila Prabhupada's disciples, GBCs, and the head of chairman of the India Bureau, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, today with us. Welcome, Maharaj, for this conversation on Vaishnav Seva, devotee care conversations, and we are very honored to have you this evening. And we are going to be having a conversation on how we can balance our sadhana along with our various organizational responsibilities. Maharaj is an extreme example of someone who has really amazingly balanced this over several decades. I'll begin with asking Maharaj that Maharaji, please could you share some of your interactions with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada really emphasized on the importance of sadhana for devotees.
First, I would like to thank the Devotee Care Committee for organizing this program. I think it's a very good program and gives several leaders an opportunity to explain the philosophy. I want to thank the Devotee Care Committee. Thank you very much. So the question is how to balance spiritual life and organizational or management. Basically, the question is how to lead a spiritual life and still manage. Management takes on different headaches. Prabhupada always emphasized the importance of spirituality. Prabhupada said in the famous statement, purity is a force. The very time Prabhupada came to America, he preached the principle of purity. And once he was approached in New York, the people were telling him, Swamiji, you don't know America. All these rules you're talking, nobody will follow. Prabhupada refused to follow. So Prabhupada gave us the principles of purity. And without purity, anything we do will be mundane. The Prabhupada said, every devotee, doing no exception, must stand his ground for their principles. And he wanted the leaders of the society to emphasize this also. So as Prabhupada said, we preach by example. He wanted the leaders to be exemplary. And these days, people are very smart. If somebody is not exemplary, if somebody is not acting properly, people can easily see that. Look at the same person. So Prabhupada gave us the importance of purity. And he emphasized that the leaders of the society, whether it be GBC, would preach, they should be exemplary in their behavior. If we follow these principles, we can stay on the spiritual track. Otherwise, you can have the best management principles, you can have the best theories, but if spirituality is missing, then nothing is to be realized. So, Prabhupada emphasized purity. And if you read Prabhupada's letters and instructions, Prabhupada told me the same way he told everyone. It's not that Prabhupada gave a different instruction. Instructions Prabhupada gave were the same for everyone. Prabhupada emphasized the importance of purity. He said, if you want to make spiritual advancement, you want to turn around, come to the morning program. The initial stages of coming to the morning program will be tough. Because we are used to a lazy lifestyle. But if we continue the determination, Prabhupada Swami emphasized certain points for spiritual advancement. with enthusiasm. We should be enthusiastic because we are following these rules for our spiritual benefit. If we follow these rules, then we have spirituality as our goal. And then we gradually begin to experience the higher state. And it will go with everything. Without the being determined. We must have the determination. I must follow the morning program. And that will help you, that will help us in getting spiritually strong. And as you get spiritually strong, you can defeat the attack of the enemy. Prabhupada, because I was a GBC, so he came to India and started working at GBC for 175. And actually, Prabhupada, at that time, I was a school GBC for India. So, wherever we went, Prabhupada emphasized it in all the lectures. We expected all the leaders to also preach and practice. And that is what it saved ISKCON. ISKCON is not like any other organization, any other spiritual organization. ISKCON stands for purity. The Prabhupada gave the rules. We did for the school, with our part. The Prabhupada first started the movement in America. He told the devotees to chant 64 rounds a day. They tried it. And that time we only had 30 devotees. They couldn't do it. So they came back 2 days later and said, Swami, we are Americans, we can't chant 64 rounds. The Prabhupada said, okay, 32 rounds. And they tried 32 rounds for a few days. And they came back and said the same thing. Swami, we can't do 32 rounds. Prabhupada said, 16, no less. Final. And from there onward, it was 16 rounds. Prabhupada has said many times, if you don't go there, I'm expected to go. So Prabhupada emphasized spirituality. He wanted the leaders to be exemplary. And we have seen that we're leaders like exemplary.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. So basically, some of the key points which you said, and maybe I'll request Dashavatar Prabhu to just check on the audio of Maharaj's system. Just some of the settings on the audio, you can just check. I'll just recap. Maharaj just made a beautiful point that, the entire Krishna consciousness movement has been established by Srila Prabhupada on the basis of purity. And Srila Prabhupada actually wanted his devotees to chant 16 rounds and no less. And based on the sadhana, on the foundation of sadhana, the entire Krishna conscious activities are developed. And therefore, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, in his direct interactions with Srila Prabhupada, has experienced that very strongly in all of his dealings. So that was really beautiful encapsulation of Srila Prabhupada.
Are people able to hear me or they're not able to hear me?
Now we are able to hear you better.
Oh, when I first spoke, they couldn't hear.
Some part of it, but it's pretty okay now.
Okay, you want me to speak louder?
No, now I think there was some problem in your audio setting. I think now it's better now.
Okay, I mean, you summarized it nicely.
Yeah. So thanks for that. And okay, Maharaj, now we see that many times when as leaders we engage in organizational activities, it becomes, sometimes very absorbing and the mode of passion takes over. And sometimes devotees have tendency to go into late nights and then, the sadhana goes through a toss. So can you share some, experiences with Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada has really focused and stressed and pushed that taking organizational responsibility is also very important. And, in your interactions, some anecdotes or some stories where Prabhupada really emphasized that to you.
There was a devotee serving in India at GBC. He was tired of serving in India. He wanted to go back to America. Prabhupada said, no, stay in India and help me. That was before I came to India. The devotee said, no, Prabhupada, I have to go to America. Prabhupada said, you can go, but I can't go. I have management responsibility, and I have to stay here till I find a replacement for you. Prabhupada did emphasize that we need management. And also he did emphasize that we need good intelligence. Prabhupada used to say, you Americans should use your American brains to manage properly. So as the society grew, the management needs also grew. And Prabhupada wanted devotees to take on this responsibility. But this did not mean that they would get exempted or have concessions in the spiritual life. As ISKCON is expanding, we get hit with a lot of management responsibility. And my experience is those who are sincere and willing to do service, they keep getting more and more. And those who are not so keen, Krishna doesn't give them the opportunity. But taking on more management doesn't mean you compromise on your sadhana. Sadhana is the foundation of spiritual life. The prime difference between our movement and any other spiritual movement is spirituality. And that we saw Prabhupada never compromised. So we may have to take on more managerial duties. And as I said, we naturally have to do that as the movement expands. But we should balance our spiritual life and material life. These days, as you know, the prime strength of ISKCON are the congregational devotees. At one time, when ISKCON was started in the late 60s, virtually all our devotees were full-time devotees and either grihastha or brahmachari. And the congregation was very small. Today, the graph has changed. Today, the bulk of our devotees are congregational devotees, and full-time temple devotees are in the minority. So one question that our congregation devotees often bring up, I have a job to do, a family to maintain, service to do in the temple. How do I do all this and still keep a balance? So I advise best is to sit down with your seniors and work out your schedule. And the schedule should be so worked out that you don't compromise on your chanting, reading, sadhana. Sadhana is of the essence. And if you maintain good sadhana, there's a good chance you'll make spiritual advancement. Spiritual advancement means get a taste for the holy name, get a taste reading Prabhupada books, cultivating humility. Humility is an important position. Humility is essential if we want to make spiritual advancement. But all that can happen if we are practicing spirituality, and which means following a sadhana. So those leaders who do not emphasize this, who justify a weak sadhana by making a statement, oh, we have so much work to do, that is not correct. You may have a lot of work, but as far as possible, try your best to keep your sadhana and also do your service. And if we use our intelligence, Krishna will make it possible. The Lord is ready to help us. We have to just make the effort. So my advice to all our devotees is keep your sadhana and at the same time do your job or business or service and make sure that you don't compromise on what is absolutely essential for success in spiritual life.
So much Thank you so much, Maharaj. That was really very deep and
So
very.
people hear it.
Yes, yes. Now it's absolutely clear. The audio is perfect now. Thank you. So again, you just made such a brilliant point that from 77 till 2020, if we see the trend, that ISKCON has become a highly congregational based movement. And so it's very, very important for us to realize this importance of balancing. And unless we balance with our spiritual activities and the sadhana, we will not be able to realize the essence of the spiritual movement which we are in. So, coming back to your own personal example, because nothing inspires devotees more than actually seeing some of these in action. And I would say that, you have one of the busiest schedules, which can compare with some of the biggest corporates head anywhere in the whole world. You're traveling all the time and you have zones all over the world. In Delhi alone, you have more than 16 to 17 temples. So, and along with that, the BBT, so many responsibilities you are handling and traveling and doing your GBC duties diligently. But one thing which all of us have observed over the last 50 years is you are so strict about the morning program, and we see you doing Mangalarati, and you're right there. So, what is your secret? What is it that has kept you going like this?
First, I must say Vaishnavas are very compassionate and generous. So Guranga is being very generous in stating that I have some good points. Nevertheless, as I said, we must have full faith in the benefits of sadhana if we want to make spiritual advancement. As the movement expanded and as the congregation devotees expanded, naturally the congregation devotees have a lot of, it's a difficult challenge. They have jobs to do, traveling, etc. So for them it becomes really difficult. And I think what we can do, what I do for sincere congregation devotees, give them an abridged program. At least they can chant rounds in the morning and 10 aartis. So my advice to everyone is keep your sadhana strong, and that will give you the spiritual strength. Just like we take grains to make our body healthier, the sadhana is key to spiritual advancement. And all we need is determination. Rupa Goswami has said, not only enthusiasm, but also determination. Without determination, can't achieve anything in life. And as I say, God helps those who help themselves. So when Krishna sees you're making an attempt, he also helps us. Prabhupada used to say, you take one step towards Krishna, Krishna will take 10 steps towards you. So I at least try to maintain good sadhana, but it's not always possible. And we should adjust our preaching plans accordingly. For example, a lot of devotees were doing house programs. And one result of house program was is that you come home very late. You come home by 10, 10:30, and then it's tough to get up in the morning. So if we want to safeguard our spiritual life, we should make a rule. No programs after 8:30. And the host may complain. But tell the host, you make some sacrifice and come a little early so that you can still maintain your sadhana. The point is, we should be strict in our sadhana and try our best to follow. If sometimes someone is sick or some emergency work, then it's a different story. But by and large, we should try to follow and keep a good sadhana, and that will help us in our spiritual effort.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for sharing those tips. And I just wanted to ask you about, many devotees across the world are watching this program and conversation, and many more will watch the recorded version. and many are not aware of exactly the history of how the projects in Delhi developed. So would you like to share something about what are some of the activities which you have developed in ISKCON Delhi, and within that, what are some of the initiatives with respect to improving sadhana which you have tried to inspire the devotees?
I
So,
tell devotees that whatever success we're having in Delhi is just due to Prabhupada's mercy. As you know, Prabhupada used to reside in the Radha Dhamma temple in Vrindavan. And he came to Delhi very regularly. Why? To print his books. He was translating the books on an old typewriter in Vrindavan. Then he would come to Delhi, Chibiwara, get the books composed, and then printed, then bound, and then he would go out distributing the books himself. It was a one-man army, one man doing the translation, arranging the printing, borrowing money, asking money for donations, then ultimately going to distribute the books. So Prabhupada would come to Delhi very regularly, and in a location known as Chipiwara, some of you may have been there, Prabhupada had his address. He rented a room. Now we have a temple there. At that time, he rented a room, and that was his address, permanent address in India. So I tell devotees, Prabhupada has given so much mercy to the people of Delhi that we are reaping the benefits. Prabhupada wanted a major center in Delhi. When Prabhupada was on the planet, I went with him many areas to look for land. Tejas Das was the temple president, and he also tried, but we didn't have much luck. And Prabhupada said, Delhi is the most important city in Asia, and we should have a major temple here. It was Prabhupada's wish, Prabhupada's desire, his prediction. My experience is whatever Prabhupada desired eventually came true. Just like at one time he was passing by the Hare Krishna land in Juhu, Bombay. He saw the present location, which was a jungle at that time. He told Krishna, Krishna, if you ever give me this land, I'll make a beautiful temple for you. And he expressed this wish when he didn't have a penny to live or a place to live. But he manifested his desire. So, same thing in Delhi. Prabhupada wanted many temples there. And the first temple was built in Nehru Place. And that location was at one time called Govardhan. It's on a hill. And with great difficulty, the land was obtained. Getting land in Delhi is very tough. And then we built the temple with the help of many devotees. So that was the first temple which was inaugurated in 1978 by Prime Minister Vajpayee. Then subsequent to that, a second temple opened in Punjabi Bagh. That was a house that somebody had donated to us from America, donated to us to use it. Then after a few years, he wanted to kick us out, and we refused. So there was a court case, and we lost the court case. We were all in anxiety of what to do. Then Krishna revealed a plan. He revealed a very beautiful building, which was being sold at that time for 4 crores. We went on a marathon to collect, and with the help of our devotees, we were able to buy that building. So that's how it went on expanding. Today, by Krishna's grace, we have about 14 temples and many preaching centers. I think the success is there. That is due to Prabhupada's mercy, and Prabhupada spending so much time in Delhi. And that's why we're reaping the fruits. And over in all these temples, there's a temple almost in every corner of Delhi and NCR. And we hope that the temples keep are maintained properly and gradually expand. Maintaining temples is not easy. It's a challenge. So let's hope that we can maintain these centers and build new ones later. Papa wanted a temple in every colony. I don't think that's easy to do, but we have preaching centers, Namah centers virtually everywhere. It is purely Prabhupada's mercy that has made this possible. And now we have the Chibiwara temple. Some of you may have been there. We inaugurated that temple a year ago. Now it's a very beautiful temple and it attracts a lot of people. Was that it?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. It was amazing to hear such interesting details we have never heard before about, some of those projects. We can see the Falena Parichayate, the, proof is in the result. And so many years of dedicated service and wonderful cooperative efforts by the devotees have manifested so many wonderful projects. So I had a related question that in the 70s,
One thing I must say, Krishna sent a
yeah,
lot of nice devotees who helped me and who worked together to achieve this goal.
yes,
The credit goes to all of them who worked
yes,
hard for Prabhupada's pleasure.
definitely. Thank you, Maharaj. So I had a related question that in the 70s and 80s, ISKCON was growing a lot in the West. And then during Srila Prabhupada's time in India, four main metros, some activities began. And at that point, nobody could have imagined ISKCON in India to grow so much. And then in retrospect, we also see that in the 80s and sometime in the early 90s, there were some major leadership crises in the West, especially with leaders having various spiritual difficulties. Whereas on the other hand, we found that the leadership in India, consisting of your good self, His Holiness Jayapatak Swami Maharaj, and some of the other leaders, they continued leading India with great stability. So, how would you see this scenario, and how much do you think particular aspect has been instrumental? A stable leadership in a particular yatra just helps grow the particular yatra and the devotee's faith over a period of time. And that is something which, in India, the devotees have been very fortunate to see many of you leaders at the very top level continue practice the process of Krishna consciousness steadily, day after day, year after year, as per Srila Prabhupada's standard. So, how much would you subscribe to this view that one of the best strategies for spiritual growth and expansion of preaching and outreach and growing devotees' faith should be a very stable, steady, spiritual example shown by the leadership at the top level.
Prabhupada said, in India, people like stability. There's a story that Giriraj Swami, who was the president in Bombay for a long time, met Prabhupada in Los Angeles. Prabhupada said, you should go back to Bombay. Indian people like to see stability. So many leaders, Radhanath Swami and Bhakti, God, dear God, Brother Bhakti Charu Swami, who passed away recently, and were serving in India. And there was stability. And India also has certain advantages. For example, the people know Krishna, they know the philosophy, and relatively it's a little easier to preach in India than in the West. And the leaders have been in the position for a long time. But these leaders are also getting old now. Now we have to worry about creating our successors. And stability definitely attracts people. And they see confidence. If they see the leaders changing, playing musical chairs all the time, then their faith goes down. The Prabhupada emphasized stability, and stability should be encouraged. And of course, it's not always possible, but they should try their best to make sure the leaders are stable. That's why Prabhupada, when he appointed the GBCs, he appointed them for life. He didn't want elections or a democratic way of selecting. But he said if they're qualified and they're spiritually okay, then they can stay for life. Only because he wanted the mood of stability to be there. So this is very important. The leaders be in their position. They should not whimsically resign or withdraw. And they should also be exemplary. And then the stability will have great effect, positive effect.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for sharing that beautiful insight on spiritual strength and stability. And I think, this also leads me to another question about how Srila Prabhupada began writing his books in Radha Damodar temple and printing in Delhi. And then after you kind of took charge of the leadership in Delhi, you just focused so much also on printing, publishing, and distributing books. So, as part of a strong sadhana, books are so very important. And personally, we have seen how you have led the devotees in printing, studying, and also distributing these books. So, could you share something about what inspires you in this entire effort of book publishing, and some of the insights you can give on what kind of initiatives you have taken in this book publishing and distribution exercise?
Initially, when ISKCON was established in India, the books were being imported from Los Angeles. It was only in 1976 that we started printing our books. And we started printing our books in Bombay. Bombay was and it still is the headquarters of the BBT. So the books were being translated in different parts of the country. And we had BBT in Western India, Eastern India, and so on. And as the books came out, it gave Prabhupada great pleasure. Prabhupada often said, when you bring a book out, it increases his life. Prabhupada was a driving force and who emphasized the need to have Prabhupada books in every language. So Prabhupada also gave me the responsibility of looking after the BBT. So we started pushing book production and translation. Getting good translators at that time wasn't easy. Now, of course, we have devotees translating in virtually every language. But at that time, this wasn't there. And then Prabhupada also encouraged book distribution. I met Prabhupada in Bhubaneswar, which was right after the Magh Mela, in which he participated in, I believe, 1977. And Prabhupada told me, after what he saw in Allahabad, that in India, you can distribute unlimited books. Prabhupada emphasized that point. And different leaders took up on this, and gradually book distribution increased a lot in India. Prabhupada said, books are the basis. And in ISKCON, virtually in every corner, people know the importance of books because they've heard this in every lecture, in every festival, the importance of books. So we also emphasize that. And in Delhi, as I said, Delhi has special mercy with Prabhupada himself, there's book distribution in Delhi. Prabhupada would print the books in Chipivara, then go out for book distribution. And he would go to the libraries. Some of you may have seen that famous picture of Prabhupada giving a Bhagavatam to the late Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. Prabhupada said books are the basis. And Prabhupada used to go to libraries in Delhi. He would go to the American Embassy. He sold books to the American Embassy, that in turn sent these books to the Congress Library in Washington. So Prabhupada encouraged book distribution. He planted the seed, and we sincerely try to follow. And Krishna sent some very sincere, dedicated Sankirtan devotees whose enthusiasm is so strong that even in the current environment, they're saying, let us go on book distribution, please. We're tired of sitting inside. And they're so committed to book distribution. And Prabhupada, once he was distributing books in Connaught Place, actually got it magazine. The weather was very warm, so he had a minor sunstroke. But as soon as he came back to consciousness, he resumed his BTG distribution. Prabhupada used to go in Delhi, there was a very famous coffee house where people would gossip, hear music, and smoke and so on. Prabhupada would go inside that coffee house, sit down next to the people, start talking to them, and then try and give them a bug back to Godhead. So Prabhupada left no technique unused. He tried different techniques to do book distribution. And I believe years of Prabhupada's toiling, making an effort on the Delhi soil, is being taken advantage of now. And now the devotees are doing book distribution to please Prabhupada. And there is some success. But there's success all over India. For example, Pune Temple has also been very successful in book distribution. Mayapur has also been very successful. Book distribution, at least in India, is fairly successful almost in every part. At least for as far as Delhi is concerned, entire credit goes to Prabhupada's mercy. We spend so much time in Delhi preaching, going to libraries, and go on selling books on the streets, etc.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for sharing about some of the history of how the book distribution evolved, especially in India. And it
But
is such a fortune. Yes, Maharaj.
it was Prabhupada's mercy. Prabhupada issued books in Delhi. Delhi is the
Yes,
only city in the world where Prabhupada went himself for years with books.
correct.
They're getting the mercy from that time. So Prabhupada left behind so much dust that the devotees are constantly touching to on the forehead and doing it.
Amazing. That is such a amazing insight and realization. And thanks for sharing that realization with us.
There's no city in the world where Prabhupada went on the streets to distribute books.
Amazing, and it definitely shows in the way the book distribution has grown, especially in Delhi. So this brings me to a very important question that when Prabhupada went to the West in America, at that time communism was practically at its peak, and Soviet Union and the NATO, led by United States, were practically at loggerheads, and nobody would have imagined a scenario in future where communism would actually collapse. And you were very much part of the entire discussion and scene when Srila Prabhupada was just beginning his efforts in Russia with Sham Sundar Prabhu at the beginning. And then you had several conversations with Srila Prabhupada about how to infiltrate and distribute and share the books in Russia. And so in 1977 or 78, I believe, there was a very famous book fair which you attended, and that was like the foundation for the entire opening up of ISKCON in the Soviet bloc. So, would you like to share that particular history with our audience?
As you said, Prabhupada was very keen to go behind the Iron Curtain. At that time, the Soviet influenced countries were considered behind the Iron Curtain. And there was a devotee disciple, I think his name was Krishna Das, lived in Germany, who Prabhupada sent to preach in Russia. And then Prabhupada went there, Sham Sundar, who was Prabhupada's secretary on that trip. They stayed in a hotel, and Sham Sundar was on the road looking for a place where he could get something vegetarian, where he met a devotee called Anatol. And then Anatol became Prabhupada's first disciple. And Prabhupada, within 4 days, initiated him, taught him how to cook, how to wear a dhoti, and how to preach. So Prabhupada's one visit of, I'm sorry, I think it was 5 or 6 days. And Prabhupada in that trip met the late Dr. Kitowski. I met him later on also. Kitowski took the risk in inviting Prabhupada to the then Soviet Union. So Prabhupada planted a seed. And then in 1976, in the BBT office in Bombay, we received an invitation from the Soviet publishing house called Mezduna Narodnaga Kniga. This was a publishing house that imported books. And they wrote to us in BBT, please send us books and catalog books that bring peace to the world. So I showed this letter to Prabhupada in Mayapur in 1976, Mayapur time, March. And Prabhupada was very pleased. Then he called me, actually called the late Gopal Krishna Maharaj also, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj to go to China. And that's when he got that instruction. And he told me, now we got this letter from Soviet Union, you must go there right away. Like, it was the first trip I made to the then Soviet Union was in 1976 in the month of May. And I went to two cities, Moscow and St. Petersburg. Ananda Shanti was with me, and we placed Prabhupada books in many libraries. Libraries wanted the books, but they didn't have money to pay. The Prabhupada said, we give them free. And then in 1977, there was a World Book Fair in which we participated. There were two other devotees who joined me. There was the late Bhugarba Prabhu and Prithu Maharaj. So we got a real big boutique. At that time, India was very close to Soviet Union. India was almost in the Soviet bloc. And the Americans were the other side, as you heard, NATO. So we getting visas was also very difficult. So in 1977, we took part in a book fair. And we got a very big booth. That time, as I said, India was very close to Soviet Union. We booked the space from BBT Bombay. And in the book fair, that was the first public exhibition of Prabhupada's books. The Russians were very impressed. And we were also distributing Laddu Prasad. And at that time, we had few devotees. The Prabhupada books got very big coverage. And then gradually the movement started developing in the Soviet Union. And in 1982, I believe, the Soviet Union broke up and became Russia. So Prabhupada planted the seed as usual. The seed later started growing. And Krishna gave us the opportunity of this book fair. And even before that, in 1976, we had virtually gone to all the big libraries in Moscow and St. Petersburg. At that time, St. Petersburg was called Leningrad. And we put Prabhupada's books in these libraries. And many of the people who joined later told me, oh, I got introduced to Krishna consciousness through these books which I got from that library. The Prabhupada said book distribution is very pleasing, but these books have the required knowledge. And we have seen all over the world how these books have changed the lives of people. And in Russia, the book distribution went on expanding, and gradually people joined, and the rest is history. So that was also done by Prabhupada. He planted a seed. It was his vision that Krishna consciousness should go behind the Iron Curtain. And even in China now, there's so many devotees. The Prabhupada's vision always came true. And now the centers all over the CIS.
Wonderful.
Okay.
It's really ecstatic to hear about that, Maharaj. It is something unbelievable. And if you look back into history, this really sounds like, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had planned something, and, all of you became instruments in making it happen. So, coming back to,
In Moscow, every day there are 3 or 4 Kirtan parties going out
wow,
all over Moscow. Moscow is a very big city. And
fantastic.
legally, we don't have any permission, but the police is so nicely cultivated by devotees who give them permission that they look to the other side when they come.
Amazing. So, coming back to India, Maharaj, uh, one of the things which Srila Prabhupada also always emphasized was for the stability of this movement, how, we should be working very closely with the needs, interests, and concerns of the community and the government. So you have been at the forefront of cultivating very close relationships with the government of India, and over last several decades, practically you have met every prime minister, president, and given them Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and also cultivate strong relationships. And recently during the COVID relief work, I think ISKCON Delhi was at the forefront, and I think through your efforts in Delhi, more than 4 crore plates have been distributed just from Delhi alone. So please share with us, how you have cultivated this, very close relationship of ISKCON with the government's efforts, and being a partner with so many of these efforts, and how important it is for ISKCON temples across the world to, embrace this.
One thing that Prabhupada said, your love for me will be shown how you cooperate. The Prabhupada wanted all of us to work cooperatively. In the Bhagavatam, fourth canto, the Lord told the Prajetas, I'm very pleased because you brothers have only one occupation, devotional service. So Prabhupada wanted us to work together. And Prabhupada also wanted us to cultivate important people of society. That's why Prabhupada, when he was alone, he met Lal Bahadur Shastri, late Prime Minister of India. So as ISKCON expanded, ISKCON's reputation also expanded, and people respect ISKCON. And we've been a little lucky in meeting the prime ministers and all that. But Prabhupada wanted us to cultivate important people. And we cultivate them strictly from the angle that the year of Krishna, the year about ISKCON, and if we ever need their help, they also help. Just like we had a problem in Russia, but the Indian prime ministers, they helped us. They said they have requested Putin to be liberal with us. And it's a fact that lately we haven't had any problem in Russia with the government authority. So cultivating is not easy. It's not easy to see that. But Krishna has been lucky. We have been lucky by Krishna's mercy to have had meeting with virtually all the leaders. Recently, a year ago, the Prime Minister inaugurated the biggest Gita ever produced. This was produced in Italy by Mother Srila Prabhu, and he had a great desire also that the Prime Minister should release it. So I had seen the Prime Minister 2 months before, and I told him that Gita was coming. We wanted him to inaugurate. He said, yes, I'll do it. When he came in February to inaugurate, the first thing he told me is, see, I kept my promise to you. I promise I'll come for the inauguration. So I think we should, all over the world, cultivate people, important people, and cultivating takes a lot of effort and time, but it's definitely helpful in the long run. So and being in Delhi, makes it a little easier. So
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for sharing that experience. And, we are just going to be ending our program by showing the audience a small video about the historic Bhagavad Gita. So before we show that particular video, I want to share with all the devotees that Maharaj has very much focused and emphasized today on the importance of sadhana, which basically is our relationship with the sound vibration, specifically the chanting of the holy names, the worship of the deities, and also the study of Srila Prabhupada's books. Maharaj explained very beautifully how Srila Prabhupada spent practically several years distributing personally books in Delhi. And from the seed of that, we could see such profuse book distribution happening in Delhi and in other parts of India also and all over the world. And for those of the devotees who are very keen to study Srila Prabhupada's books systematically, we have created a website where all the different online courses of ISKCON have been showcased at one place. It is known as www.iskoncourses.com. So we have courses from Mayapur, from VIHE, MIHE, from Chopati, from Radhadesh. So from across the world, different institutions, beginners level, intermediate level, advanced level, right from journey of self-discovery, introduction to Bhagavad Gita, to Bhakti Shastri, to various other skill-based courses, to the Bhakti Vaibhav, Srimad Bhagavatam courses, etc. Everything is there in this one particular website where you can connect and at your own pace connect with, choose any of the different platforms which are offering online certifications, and www.iskoncourses.com, and also to assist the leaders organize themselves better and conduct their management and administration by learning from best practices, just like Maharaj shared some of his best practices today. We have created one more website for especially the leaders of ISKCON, www.organizeyourtemple.com. So this is a recently launched website, organizeyourtemple.com. This website has various features, including links to the courses. We also have a section which is specifically focused on getting the best practices from leaders from across the world, and their best practices are showcased in the form of interviews and documents. We also have a whole reference manual section called How To. So, for example, how to operate a kitchen, how to run a Govinda's restaurant, how to run a book distribution party, how to organize a Rath Yatra. So, all of these how to reference manuals are also there for those who want to get ready reference on how to do certain things. And the third very important element within this section is that we have interviewed several Srila Prabhupada's disciples and experienced GBCs, and their interview videos, along with the transcript and the key highlights of their experience in leading ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada's instruction on leading ISKCON, and tips for the next generation on how they could organize and lead the ISKCON temples better. All that is also within that particular section. Then there is another section within that website, which is basically all the different websites of ISKCON geographically and topic wise, articulated and culled together. And we have a contact us section where any of you who want some kind of help and assistance in leadership development to help improve strategic planning. We have a strategic planning network led by Shubhananda Prabhu from the SPT, and he has a team all across the world. And if you reach out to us on this particular contact us, then we would help you improve your leadership capabilities, organizational capabilities through various Zoom calls and consulting, and also help organize some kind of a strategic plan for your particular temple or yatra. So this is all part of leader care and spiritual care. And now we want His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj to share a few words about the big Bhagavad Gita, the vision behind the big Bhagavad Gita. And then once he speaks about that big Bhagavad Gita, then we will show a small video connected to that, which we have received from Maharaj. Over to you,
Before
Maharaj.
before I proceed, I want to thank Gauranga Prabhu for actively participating in all the educational program that he just talked about. Gauranga has unlimited energy. He has his hands everywhere, and he manages to do a good job. That's why everybody wants him. And I also want to thank the Devotee Care Committee that is ultimately responsible for this program. Devotee Care is a very essential department. Devotee care should be given top priority. People today often ask, when I get old, who's going to look after me? What arrangement is there in ISKCON? And who's going to look after me when I fall sick? Who's going to look after me when I get old? The gurus may have disciples, but everybody is not a guru. So we have to inspire confidence in every devotee who joins ISKCON that he will be looked after as he gets older, in old age, provided he'll be serving the Lord. We have to inspire this confidence. But people want to know what's going to happen when I'm old. But the body care is a very valuable effort started by Gopal Bhatta Prabhu and his team. And I think this devotee care should be developed. We should have devotee care centers in every center of the country. And we should really provide a facility where devotees can be taken care of. And if we have good devotee care, Prabhupada gave so many examples of how devotees should be taken care. Prabhupada was very personal. When he saw someone who needed help, he would do that right away. And this devotee care is a very important activity. And I hope that ISKCON leaders concentrate on this and help develop good devotee care committees everywhere. So devotees are looked after and they have the confidence that they will not be left on the street. They will be looked after even in old age or when they get disease. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Now they're going to show the new Gita, the biggest Gita ever produced. The credit for producing it goes to Mother Sevita Prabhu, our GVC for Italy. He had a great desire to have a very unique Bhagavad Gita. I forget the exact measurements, Gauranga may remember, but this is the biggest Gita ever produced.
Big
And
Gita.
it is
Diamond.
being exhibited in our museum in Delhi. Unfortunately, the museum will close for the past few months because of current situation, because of the virus. And everyone liked it very much. And it is in Delhi. And if those of you who haven't seen it, can try and see it in future. I believe there's a video that is going to be shown. This is a 6-minute video. The Prime Minister gave a beautiful speech. And unfortunately, that video is 42 minutes. It would take too much time. So I think I'm going to show you a real abridged version of the event that took place.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj. 2.8 meters by 2 meters. The
2.8
dimension.
by 2 meters.
Yeah.
You're going to do a video now?
Yes, Maharaj. So we will now have the video.
Thank you very much. हम बड़े आभारी हैं कि हमारे प्रधानमंत्री आज इस शुभ अवसर पर इधर पहुंचे हैं। तो 3 महीने पहले मैं मोदी जी को मिला था। हमने उनसे उनसे कहा था कि हमारी सोसाइटी एक बड़ी गीता बना रही है, जो सबसे बड़ा ग्रंथ होगा विश्व में। हम चाहते हैं कि यहाँ पर उद्घाटन करो। तो मोदी जी ने कहा था किताब को ले आओ, वो आएंगे। तो मैं सबसे पहले उनका आभारी हूँ कि उन्होंने जो कहा था उसका पालन किया है। और मोदी जी की मेमोरी बड़ी शार्प है। आज मिलते ही उन्होंने कहा मैंने अपना वादा पूरा किया है। श्रील प्रभुपाद एक भगवत गीता का अनुवाद सबसे पहले अंग्रेजी भाषा में किया था। उसका अनुवाद आगे 60 से अधिक भाषा में हो गया है और सारे विश्व में लोग भगवत गीता को का अध्ययन कर रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री का एक आंदोलन है स्वच्छ भारत। ये बड़ा अच्छा आंदोलन है और गीता के द्वारा आप स्वच्छ हृदय भी प्राप्त कर सकते हैं।
हरे कृष्ण। अभी मुझे दिव्यतम ग्रंथ गीता के भव्यतम रूप के राष्ट्र को समर्पित करने का अवसर मिल रहा है। यह अवसर मेरे लिए और भी खास है क्योंकि मैं उस जगह खड़ा हूं जहां करीब 2 दशक पहले अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी ने इस मंदिर परिषद का शिलान्यास किया। साथियों, दुनिया की ये भव्यतम श्रीमद् भगवत गीता 3 मीटर लंबी और 800 किलो की है। इस गीता को बनाने में ISKCON से जुड़े आप सभी ने अपना पूरा सामर्थ्य और रचनात्मकता लगाई है। ये गीता भगवान श्री कृष्ण और स्वामी प्रभुपाद के श्रद्धालुओं की भक्ति और समर्पण का प्रतीक है। श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद जी ने तो खुद को भगवत गीता के लिए समर्पित कर दिया था। एक बार फिर इस्कॉन से जुड़े हर भक्त को, हर भारतवासी को इस दिव्य भगवत गीता के लिए मेरी तरफ से बहुत बहुत बधाई। आपने मुझे यहां आमंत्रित किया, इस पवित्र अवसर का भागीदार बनाया, इसके लिए मैं आप सबका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हरे कृष्णा।
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much for being instrumental in revealing this giant, astounding Bhagavad Gita to the world. And thank you for sharing your realizations on balancing spiritual care along with organizational responsibilities, and sharing your very profound realizations on instructions from Srila Prabhupada and your lifetime's dedication to Srila Prabhupada's movement. And we would now announce about our next conversation very soon, which will be happening again next week, Wednesday or Thursday. The final details you will see here on the same Facebook page of the GBC SPT. So we would like to thank the GBC SPT for organizing and coordinating all of these wonderful events to keep the devotees across the world of ISKCON enthused and inspired during these very, very difficult, challenging time. Thank you very much, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Thanks to
Gauranga and the Devotee Care Committee organizers. Thank you very much. May
thank you,
Krishna,
Maharaj.
may Krishna give you strength so that he can go on expanding his movement.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for your blessings.
Okay.
Maharaj.